Good evening. Hello, everybody. Can I have your attention again, please? I mean, I'm teaching, but I don't ever do that. Actually, I do sometimes. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed catching up with each other. I've seen some people moving around tables, and it's part of that whole idea of which hat are you wearing at which point. Rick Harvey has a fabulous avatar that he had, a very long time ago with about 5 hats on top, and it's so true. So I would like to ask Jordan to the stage so he can actually welcome our orator and we can get to hear some insights.
Thank you, Kelly. And okay, so this won't be nearly as long as my last little piece. It is our privilege tonight to welcome the Honourable Victor Dominello to deliver the Pearcey Oration. Victor is a former senior New South Wales Government Minister, best known for serving as the inaugural Minister for Customer Service and Digital, a role he pioneered globally in 2018. He was recognised by the Australian newspaper in July 2022 as one of Australia's top 100 innovators. Victor spent 12 years in Cabinet, leading portfolios including digital government, innovation, finance, and Aboriginal affairs. His leadership earned international acclaim for revolutionising New South Wales public service delivery through initiatives like the Department of Customer Service, Service New South Wales, and the Digital Restart Fund. Prior to his political career, Victor practiced law for over a decade, becoming a partner in a commercial law firm. After his political career, so to speak, in September 2023, he co-founded ServiceGen, a consultancy advising governments and organisations on innovative service delivery strategies, and through ServiceGen, Victor was selected by the World Bank to spearhead a transformative digital identity initiative in Mongolia. In February this year, he launched the Future Government Institute, a global hub for forward-thinking public sector leaders, innovators and practitioners dedicated to shaping the next era of governance. Then, in March, Victor was named one of the Identity 25 by Okta Ventures. For those who don't know, Okta is a global software company that deals in security and access. So he was recognised as one of the global pioneers shaping the future of digital identity. As part of that announcement, Victor's image was featured on the NASDAQ Tower in Times Square. I think that's something that would be somewhat overwhelming if I was standing there. But it was certainly a celebration of his contribution to secure, citizen-focused identity innovation. Victor holds several prominent roles. He's chair of the Services Australia Independent Advisory Board. He's senior advisor for the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. And he's a professor at the University of New South Wales. He also serves as a director of the University of New South Wales and University of Technology Sydney Trustworthy Digital Society Hub, and is a board director of the Tech Council of Australia. As a lawyer, a politician, a leader, a teacher, a director, and internationally respected thought leader, we look forward to Victor's perspective on how emerging technologies are changing our future. Please join me in welcoming the 2025 Pearcey Orator, the Honourable Victor Dominello.
Thank you very much, Jordan. Yeah, thank you. Well, thanks very much, Jordan. I really appreciate that warm introduction. Can I also begin by acknowledging country and pay my respects to elders past and present? Is there a slide? That's the slide. Right. Now, that slide is there not because I have Italian heritage, and I've done the data. I'm 98% Italian heritage, give plus or minus the margin of error. I'm calling that a thoroughbred. But I've chosen a Ferrari because it's bold, it's sexy, it's exciting, it's fast, and it's powerful. Does anybody disagree? No. But imagine, if you will, I've never driven a Ferrari, but imagine driving that at 200, maybe 250 kilometres an hour, 300, pedal to the metal on a dirt road. And imagine if that dirt road had a pothole or some gravel. Do you think the Ferrari would stay airborne? you'd be sliding all over the place. You might even do a cartwheel. For tonight's purpose at least, Ferrari is AI. It is super powerful, super fast. Everyone's talking about it. But at the moment, in Australia at least, it's driving on a dirt road. And I'm being complimentary. I think it's also driving on some goat tracks. When you think of what that means, I put forward to you tonight that Australia, for us to really embrace the AI age and to get the most out of it, to make sure that we have prosperity, dignity for the people that we're elected to serve here in Australia, we need to do three things, and urgently. The very first thing we need to do is build a road, seal the road. And what's the road? Data. It's the track. Because AI without data is just an idea. So why wouldn't we start by building an Australian data exchange? It's not like it's never been done before. You go to the countries around the world that are really evolved in their maturity, such as Estonia and Singapore, they've got something similar. And upon that, you can get a lot of trust because there's a lot of data exchange happening at pace in a secured environment. That's the first thing. The second thing we need to do is have an interoperable digital ID. Absolutely non-negotiable. That's a must. That's the key to the Ferrari. Because with the key, you can get in the Ferrari, take it for a drive. But if you don't have digital ID, you could get a malicious actor coming into your Ferrari and causing untold damage. So we need that in the digital age. We need a key. The third thing I'm putting forward tonight that I think we desperately need, in fact, all countries will need this because this is not a challenge unique to Australia, but as we heard tonight, Australia's been at the forefront of ICT for so many years. This is something we can pick up and run with or drive with. That is a skills wallet. Now, when I say a skills wallet, it's not a wallet by the government and then you put all your credentials in there. It is an ecosystem. So you choose the skills wallet you like. It could be built by the employer, by the university, by a tech company. You do you. But as long as your skills, your hard skills, your soft skills, your micro-credentials are verifiable to source and they can sit in your wallet or your wallets of choice, and more importantly, they're interoperable. I can move them around, they're recognised, so there's that fluidity in that marketplace. And I'm going to explain to you why in a moment. So 3 things from tonight. We've got to build the road, we've got to turn the key, and we've got to issue the license. And that license is the skills wallet. Because if we don't have those skills wallets, so those credentials, then how do we know the competency of the driver? So they are the 3 things we need, and quickly. Everybody here tonight, if you've been paying any attention to the news at all, you would have realised that the federal government, to their great credit, is putting productivity as part of the national agenda, and rightly so. We absolutely need it. But the last time I checked, there are only 3 ways to grow the prosperity pie. Only 3. One is population, the second is participation, and the third is productivity. When you think about the first one, population, Australia is sitting at about, what's the natural birth rate here in Australia is 1.5 in 2023. It was down, it was 1.63 in 2022. So it's falling. And 1.5 is significantly below the replacement rate of 2.1. So what do we do in Australia? We do what we always do. We open the front door. We're a lucky country. We scratch the ground, money comes out. We open the front door, people come in. So we augment our population, our sagging birth rate with immigrants. And thank you, Australia, because you've given me and my family a home, right? But the reality is when you open the door and people rush in and there's surges, and this is not a political statement because it happens with either the blue team, the green team, the purple team, the yellow team, whatever the team, when there's a surge in the population, when the buses get full, communities push back. So there's the second P. The second P is participation. Participation, we're at pretty much historic lows when it comes to the workforce. We're at 4.2 unemployment rate, which is really low historically. So we can't really squeeze too much out of that anymore. That lever's pretty much at maximum capacity. That leaves the last piece standing, productivity. And that is the hardest one, but it's the most sustainable one. And again, the federal government, to their credit, has said, all right, we are not going to get productivity with more pens and paper. We're going to have to think about using AI as a great enabler of productivity, because productivity over the last decade has pretty much flatlined. In fact, it's been, ill since about 2004, so for the last 2 decades. And the Productivity Commission has indicated we've got a problem on our hands, so we need to do something about it. And if we don't do something about it, then it's going to cause a lot of problems, because the productivity is the oxygen of prosperity. You think about it. If we want to be prosperous, if you get rid of the other 2 levers, which are problematic, we've got productivity left. If that is giving us oxygen, then if you look at our stats, Australia's been very short of breath for the last 2 decades, and we've got to do something about it. But there's a challenge with productivity, particularly with AI, because AI, when there is an intersection with jobs, I don't know if it always is going to come out well. No, I think nobody knows. I'm with the glass overflowing crew. I'm of the abundance crew. But there's legitimate arguments on both sides saying if it happens fast, it's going to be choppy waters. There's basically 2 types, and if there is choppy or churn in the waters, there's basically 2 types of unemployment that economists speak about. One is cyclical, which we all know about. There's a drop in confidence, therefore a drop in jobs. Confidence goes up and down, but the point is when the confidence comes back, the jobs come back. That's cyclical. That happens all the time. But the other one is structural, and that happens normally when there's a big tech change and a typist is replaced by a computer, or in modern context, a court translator is replaced by meta glasses or something in your ear that's translating in real time. That's a more structural change. But in the course of looking or researching for this oration tonight, I came across a third concept, and it was called hysteresis. I think engineers in the room would probably understand that term, but it's new to me, and definitely new to me in an employment context. So hysteresis is when a temporary shock becomes a permanent scar. Workers who fall out of employment don't always return. And when they do, it's often into roles that underuse their skills. And in many ways, it's like the long COVID of the labour market. Without recognition and reskilling at speed, take that typist or take that court translator, what happens is the disruption doesn't heal. So if we don't upskill these people fast, they then move from cyclical to structural and permanent. And that hysteresis is a scar in the labour market, and it's really hard to heal, really, really hard. And for Australia, it's even more challenging because for every worker lost to hysteresis, it's a bigger share of our national participation capacity, which we can ill afford to waste a precious human endeavour. Now, people are saying, all right, well, look, it may or it may not happen. I think it's a fair risk that something may happen. And we always legislate or regulate for risk. Put it in the context of residential fires. There are thousands that occur throughout Australia each year. You know, a fire alarm goes off, fire brigade goes out there, puts out the fires. Sometimes those fires are catastrophic. Thankfully, most times people and houses are saved. But the point is, because it happens, every jurisdiction, at least in this country, and I suggest most places around the world, say, sorry, that's a risk we're not going to take, and we're going to mandate you put in a smoke alarm. No ifs, no buts. You do not get the green light. You cannot move into your house without a smoke alarm because there is a risk, albeit small, but impact catastrophic. I put to you that the risk in relation to AI moving across the economy at speed and deeply is probably higher than you would see in a fire in a home. And the difference with a AI and a fire in a home, fires in homes are local and some would say sporadic. AI, if the pessimists are right, is absolutely systemic and will go fast and deep, particularly when AI is combined with robotics. It's going to have an impact on white collar and blue collar. It's going to, whether you're the knowledge economy or not, it's already having a disruption. So put that lens over what we do with smoke alarms. If we want to do something for helping out the economy in the event of hysteresis, then the smoke alarm for that is a skills wallet. Because what happens with a skills wallet is if my job is taken, I know I have all my credentials verifiable to source. I can then skim the job market and find out exactly right here, right now, what jobs are out there, because nobody can predict what the new jobs of the future are in the next 5 years, let alone 10. No one knows. But what we can do is be agile about what we have and know what we have. And then I can say, all right, skim the market. Right, there's a big demand for this new sector out there. Here are all my hard credentials, or my soft credentials, or my micro credentials, verifiable to source. Check those jobs. These are the three skills I need to acquire, the courses I need to do that have been accredited to get me a front foot into that new role. If we can transition people like that and fast, then we've upskilled them and we dent the blast radius of any AI disruption. Can I give you some really, dramatic but realistic numbers? Australia's unemployment rate at the moment is, circa about 600,000 people, and it's the unemployment rate, as I said before, about 4%. Hypothetically, if the pessimists are 10% right or even 15% right, whatever the case, and that unemployment rate jumps from 4% to 8% in the next 5-10 years. Right? And I don't think anybody can say, hand on heart in this room, there is no chance of that. I'm not saying even going to 20%. I'm just saying to 8%. We've seen those rates of unemployment before. What that means is 600,000 to 1.2 million unemployed. That's a lot. If we had a national skills wallet linked to an identity built on an Australian data exchange, ADEX, so all this data is moving around and securely with interoperability, and people can look at it with confidence, then even if the skills wallet reduces that blast radius by 1 point, so instead of 8%, it's 7%, that's an extra 150,000 jobs. I think that's worthy of something more than smoke alarms. 150,000 jobs is 150,000 households, communities, families, and if they have income shock, they're not used to it, not ready for it, dignity, a whole lot of things are in play, much, much deeper than GDP. So these are the things that we need to look at. People are probably now saying, well, you're being ambitious here, Victor. What? You're expecting government to, when I say it's not just a government, governments, it's the federal governments, state and territory governments, everyone's got to put their shoulder to the wheel on this. Do you really think governments have got the ability to do something so bold and future-focused and really, in many ways, prepare that safety net for us in the event of disruption? Well, I'm here to say an emphatic yes. Governments can do it. And I speak from lived experience. And if you can indulge me for a moment, I want to take you through my own personal lived experience in north of the border in New South Wales. We had a thing called the RTA, the Road and Traffic Authority. And in that Road and Traffic Authority, it was, I imagine it's no different to here and pretty much most jurisdictions around the world. It is appalling. It's a place where you go to wait in line, fill out a lot of forms, and come out even unhappier than when you started. It's just not a really nice environment. We changed that to Service New South Wales, which is now acclaimed really throughout the world. I've been invited to speak at the White House, UN, doing work with World Bank, and it's all because of the work that took place around Service New South Wales, but in particular, the digital driver's license. And that's the rocky road I want to walk you up there tonight. You see, when we started that journey in 2017, it was an election commitment in 2015. And we said, we're going to build one of the world's first true digital driver's license, not a PDF, a true digital driver's license, verifiable source. Made the election in 2015. It was bold at the time. I inherited the portfolio in 2017. And when I got the portfolio, I remember saying to the team, where is it? Where are we up to? We've only got 2 years to go to the election, and this is an election commitment. I didn't get answers. I got politics. I got one department who I loved called OneGov, and they, when I was Minister for Innovation and Better Reg, they built this thing called Fuel Check for me, and they did a great job of it. And I trusted them. They were building things at speed. And then I inherited Service New South Wales. And they said, no, pick me. And all they had was a very garden variety government app. There's probably about 800,000 on it, and it really didn't have many bells and whistles on it, but at least they had something. After a lot of thought, I thought we better stick with Service New South Wales. Even though I trust OneGov because they've built stuff for me before, Service New South Wales is the physical front door. It should also be the digital front door. So let's go with you. And I thought, okay, that's going to be easy from this point forward. But it wasn't. Because what happened then, I tried to convince Transport. Transport said to me, "Oh, Minister, you want to access our system?" I said, "Yeah, we've got to tap on your system to get access to the driver's license so that we can put it on our digital app." And they said, "Well, our system is called Drives." Okay. Drives was built in the 1980s. It literally has one of those green screens that blink. It's an alien in a bad way. It's ill-formed alien. So Transport is saying to me, no, we're not going to do it. We can't do it. Like, we need to, it shouldn't have been called Drives. It should have been called Stalled or Reverse because it wasn't moving forward. But they said, no, we need $1 billion. We've got to replace that. It's going to take too much effort to give you the data every time you tap on the door. So again, had to navigate their reluctance to do anything. Went to police because they had to enforce this thing. And they thought this was a vanity project. We've got murderers to catch, kidnappers to bring before the courts. Why are we mucking around with a digital driver's license? Leave us alone. It's a toy. We've got adult things to do. Then I had my own colleagues around the cabinet table because at about that time, there was this thing called LMBR. Now, LMBR was the Learning Management and Business Reform System in Education, typical government acronym, horrendous. It was a circa $800 million. It took the better part of a decade not to roll out. It was a classic tech wreck. And my cabinet colleagues are saying to me, you want us to clap you in on a essentially digital driver's license, de facto ID, and we're just now getting hauled before the Auditor General with LMBR. So, I wasn't getting much love or support. And then there was all the noise in the community. Because think about it, a digital driver's license is a de facto ID. And I'm old enough to remember, in fact, I was at high school at the time, when we had the Australia card debates. And they were toxic debates. But those debates took place before the internet. It's a different world since then. But those debates and the concerns raised in those debates has continued to haunt this great country every time there's been any attempt at reform around digital ID, notwithstanding the privacy and the security and all the good things that would come with it and the protections we could put in place. So I even had that as a ghost thinking, no, we're not going to let this work. Needless to say, I had a lot of sleepless nights because I realised that if I got this wrong, it would set back the digital transformation agenda by a decade or even more. And it really would have. Because if we got that, and we've seen with the feds in relation to the COVID Safe app, like when the public says gladiator thumbs down, you're in trouble. And particularly when you're rolling out something as intimate as essentially digital ID. So fast forward, we did all our pilots. I was getting real-time feedback, and I insisted on real-time feedback because I didn't want reports that were 3 months old, 6 months old. I said I want real-time feedback. I want to know thumbs up, thumbs down by the pilots. I want to know what the customers are saying. And I had this dashboard called Domo on a Domo platform, and I was literally clicking the button, refresh, 5-6 times a day. How many people are using it? Are they happy? Where are the complaints? I'd go home at night, and late at night, I'd still press refresh, and I was doing this. It went from a ritual to an obsession. It really was. I was struggling to sleep because I realised so much was riding on this. Fast forward, we had the launch. And at that time, Chris Fechner was in the room. Chris Fechner is the current outstanding CEO of a digital transformation agency. But at the time, Chris was also the Chief Product Officer for Service New South Wales. So he was basically driving this delivery. And Channel 9, Channel 7, Channel 10, they all ran with the story. And sure enough, as soon as it flashes up, we're getting all these downloads. I was waiting for the inevitable crash, when thousands jump on straight away. But we pressure tested it before, but, you just never know when it goes, mainstream live. Anyway, Chris leant over to me and he said, Minister, we've just hit 1 million downloads and it's holding up. And I thought, oh my God, thank God. Thank God. Has anybody seen the movie Iron Man? It's like, yeah, we can fly. We can do stuff. We can actually build stuff that actually has impact and that the public actually love. Again, fast forward, I checked the stats because the stats are still reported, thankfully, live because it's a transparency play. As of last week, 5.2 million people have downloaded the digital driver's license. The largest in terms of adoption credential in the country by a country mile. And then with a 93.6% satisfaction score. Not bad for a government. In fact, impossible for a government, but not bad for a government. So what did that prove? It proved that we can, when I say we, governments can do extraordinary things in partnership. That wasn't just one government, that was multiple government departments. It was in partnership with the tech community. They had to come and help us build that as well. It was in partnership with the community in general, who had to adopt, particularly those in the pilot phases, and walk us through those bumps in the early phases. Like, this was a huge collaboration by a great many people to get a phenomenal outcome. What that started was not just a digital driver's license in an app that has now got, I think it's about 87% adoption, which in my view is close to saturation, because you're always going to get people that can't drive. You're going to get people that are not confident. There's going to be flat earthers out there that just choose not to have the digital driver's license. So 87% is pretty much saturation. What that enabled us, I could then go to my colleagues, and instead of them saying, you're going to give me a tech rec, they're going to say, what are you going to do next? That led to $2.2 billion, that confidence and momentum of Digital Restart Fund. We did so much off the back of that. I won't bore you with that now, but they'll be in the published speech, you can see. But it was a momentum piece for the state. And again, it shows what can be done. So I want to go to the next part now. I've spoken about the fact that government or governments can do something bold if the imperative is there. I want to now go to keys. All right. So we got to get the keys, got to build the road, and we got to issue the license. Let's talk about the keys. Digital ID. People are constantly telling me, "Oh, we don't want digital ID. We don't need digital ID in Australia." And I would say to them, we already have it. And we have a lot of it. We got MyGovID, now called MyID, that the feds have. We have Connect ID, the banks use. Australia Post ID. Service is going to roll out its prototype. I think it's in beta now. Relation ID. There's here in the great state of Victoria, you got your digital driver's license underway. Again, a de facto ID. Queensland's done the same. Like, there is ID already here, and it's digital, but it's bad because it's not connected. It's a dog's breakfast. So to Minister Gallagher's eternal credit and impressive leadership, she drove the digital identity bill through the Senate last year. I don't think many people know it, but it's passed. We've got a Digital Identity Act. It's not even a bill. It's an act. It's law. And now the great Ian Opperman, who's a member of this amazing society, a foundation, He's now charged with putting the regulation and the architecture together as to how that will work. So we've already got, or we're starting to build out the keys, i.e. a digital ID, to get us access into this Ferrari. The second thing we need to do is build out the skills wallet. And it's the same type of concept, right? We don't want one skills wallet to rule them all. We want interoperability. We want the market to do the heavy lifting and to drive innovation. We want smart people like Sam to build wallets that can host a whole lot of credentials. And I can say to Sam, I'm going to use your wallet. Or I can say to Jordan, I'm going to use yours. Or I'll have two wallets, thanks. And I'll put one credential there. I do me, you do you. Choice is a powerful thing. But as long as it's mutually recognizable and we can move these things around. So what I'm suggesting tonight, whether it's the Australian Data Exchange, the digital ID, or the skills wallet, it's not a massive IT build by a government. No way in the world. This is a standards play. And so it is doable. And we can do it. And we only have to look abroad to see where it's being done, or it is being done. You've got the European Union, they're pressing ahead with their EIDAS, that they've mandated that every member state, the 27, have to have something in place by next year or even 2027. Singapore has got a skills future credit, which shows sustained use. 260,000 people use the credits in 2024 alone. More than 1 million have used the credits since the launch, and that's like a de facto skills passport. Canada's got the Pan-Canadian Trust framework that they're building out. And as I said before, in New South Wales, we've got proof points. We've got digital trade licenses. That's a credential verifiable to source. We've digitised the white card, a credential verifiable to source. Working with Children Check, credential verifiable to source. We've even piloted a digital first aid certificate verifiable to source. As long as the first aid certificate here, if it's issued in Victoria, is understood and accepted in Queensland or WA or that's the ADEX. They are the standards. These are the things that we need to build for this Ferrari to drive on. There's another imperative that forces us to act really fast, and that's AI agents. So we're not going to be the only ones driving the Ferrari. If we were the only ones, okay, maybe you could wait. But the reality is everyone right now has got a type of a Jarvis on their phone, right? And with robotics humanoid robotics really moving forward, by the next decade, you're probably going to have one at home in a real form. So what if that agent is a bad actor? Or what if the agent becomes a double agent or a sleeper agent? The damage that will cause on the road is, too bad to contemplate. So we need to issue identity to these agents. We also need to issue skills, credentials to these agents. Because if they're going to move in and drive the car, we need to know who or what it is and what it's capable of. Again, another reason why we need to build this ADEX out and fast. Because without it, it's going to be a bumpy ride. Now, let me go to the heart of it. And again, people conceptually know what a skills wallet is. People know what a digital ID is. But let's just do a bit more of a deep dive into the data exchange, the ADEX. Let's say what it is. It's Australia's version of Estonia's Crossroad. It's a secure interoperability layer. Participants are people, data holders, recipients, trust connectors and exchanges, and autonomous agents. And the core assertions are identity, attributes, licenses, credentials, and provenance. And these become the verifiable credentials with consent and the audible logs built in. That's what Estonia's got, and they've federated that model, so now Finland's doing it. Imagine if we could do something with New Zealand. So again, that Trans-Tasman partnership could really take us into that next level. In Estonia, they've said that this has produced a GDP dividend of 2%. Even if we do a crude analysis or a crude translation across to Australia of 2% GDP, and because we did our crossroads, that is something in the magnitude of, what was the figure I came up with? NDIS is 44.3 billion. If we had 2% productivity dividend, just Estonia, that's 55. We pay for NDIS completely and we get change. And it is not just the fact that Estonia has done this. We can leapfrog Estonia because they haven't designed for AI agents. They haven't designed for data quality, the metadata. Imagine if we did that, because ultimately AI without data is meaningless. AI is going to be pumping out outcomes, outputs in the not too distant future that none of us have the intellectual capacity to understand. But what we can understand is the data it digests. And is it digesting data from the net? Is it crude oil? Or is it getting high octane fuel that is auditable, with timestamps, et cetera, et cetera? This is our digital Bradfield moment, if we choose to take it. Except with Bradfield, they were building a bridge. This spans a nation. This connectivity spans a nation. It's a complete ecosystem play, G to G, G to B, G to C, B to B, etc. I'll finish on these two notes. If we get to this level in terms of building out the ADEX, the skills wallet, and the credentials, and the ID, and for that matter, all other forms of data, because if you were to pixelate a digital ID or you were to atomize a credential, it's just basically bits and pieces of data. So if we can create an Australian data exchange where all of this and everything else rests, then we're going to get a real productivity dividend for the country. But moreover, we move in the evolution of government. Everyone knows how AI is evolving. Grok 2, Chat 3, Claude 4, Gemini 5, back to Grok 6. We all talk about that. Who talks about the evolution of government? No one. All right, let me give you an example of what I think government evolution looks like. Up until about 1990, government was basically government zero, ground zero, paper government. In 1990 or thereabouts, a meteor hit, about the same size as the one that hit the dinosaurs. But it didn't kill the governments off, but it forced them to evolve. And that meteor was called the internet. It forced every government around the world to go from paper form to web form. So let's call that just digital government. 15 years later, another meteor hit every government around the world. So instead of, we go from digital government, and this meteor was smartphones and social media. That government then said, all right, instead of doing web forms, just go out and just get a bit of data, we are now going to have lots of paper forms, lots of web forms, lots of apps, because every silo is going to have at least 2 or 3. But now, because it's social media and smartphones, a bit of interaction, smart, thumbs up, thumbs down, but it was still a lot of noise. 15 years later, another meteor hit, COVID. It forced every government around the world to say, how are we going to get our people through COVID? Forget 100,000 websites or 100,000 apps. Governments start thinking, geez, we better have one main website, one main app. And that's what happened. That's government 3.0, connected government. So we have all the silos, but now we've got some connective tissue for the really complex stuff. That is where we need to be. Because in another 15 years' time, i.e. 2035, we're going to have government 4.0. G4 is, again, mainstream agentic AI, augmented reality, 6G connectivity, the beginnings of some form of quantum probably, AGI in some capacity. It's just going to be a very different operating environment to where we are now. And we're nowhere near that. Most governments have slumped back to G2. So, creating an ADEX brings us up to that G3 maturity really, really fast. So I'll conclude with this. We do have an opportunity. And I have been really fortunate beyond measure. During 12 years as a minister, I've stood on the shoulders of giants, people whose unwavering devotion to the common good have lifted me to heights I could never have reached alone. And from that privileged and very rare vantage point, I could see where the blue skies are and where the storm clouds were brewing. And what follows now are my reflections from my lived experience, and they are offered with the deepest respect for those who made it possible for me. Firstly, I really believe that one truth stands out. Technology gives us the chance to build a fairer society, faster than anything before. Literally modern miracles at speed en masse. And I've seen this firsthand. The other thing is that technology matters, but what matters more is what we choose to carry on it and who we choose to serve. So we have a choice. The horizon will be fast and it will be unpredictable. AI will accelerate it, robotics will amplify it, shocks will come without warning. In that world, governments face a fork in the road. We can cling to old ways and hope the ground doesn't move beneath us, or we can prepare people to thrive even when it does. So preparation is not about perfection. It's about laying foundations people can trust, secure identities, portable skills, and data that moves safely with consent. The arc of technology is disruptive, but it can bend towards abundance. And so I return back to the Ferrari. The engine is already revving and it's getting louder. Without the ADEX, the ride will be dangerous. Without a digital ID, anyone, including malicious actors, can take the wheel, take the Ferrari for a spin. And without a skills license, no one even knows if the driver is competent. But if we build all of them, the road, the key, the license, the AI Ferrari can run safely at speed for all of us. This is about productivity. It's also about dignity. And it's also about fairness. And the time to decide is not tomorrow, it's now. Build the road, turn the key, issue the license, and let the next generation drive further than we've ever imagined. Thank you.
I very gingerly stood up then. I don't know if anybody remembers, and I have to do it because I have to say it. The last time I heard Victor present was at the New South Wales Parliament House, and it was an AII event. And I was trying to sneak out because I had to go to a Pearcey board meeting, and I tripped over the AV there, and I flew into a Salesforce banner. It went, whoop, and I sat up and went, I'm fine. And so that's why I've always been good. And this year I'm not using a walking stick, so I'm getting better. But I can't help myself in the fact of that I have to overshare. And so if I'm embarrassed, hopefully it makes you all feel fine when you do fall down the stairs one day. So thank you so much. And I, having been a, public sector innovator and working with Nick Rees and teaching at Melbourne Uni and looking, actually, there are opportunities for public sector innovation, but then working in government, find how hard that is. But it is when we work across these different sectors, it's wonderful that you're coming out now and sharing your experience with other countries, and love to have a chat with you about the World Bank and the work it's been doing. So I let you all have your dinner, And then you will be coming back with Jordan and Victor, where he'll be having a fireside chat next to our flowers. And then also we'd like to be able to take some questions. So have a think about it. What would you like to ask? Cool. Enjoy.